Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I have learned as I have grown into the person that I am today. And today's video is really important to me. I'm actually doing a Dear Peter video. So I have a hard time saying that, Dear Peter. So if you don't know what that is, every Friday, yeah, I know it's Saturday, every Friday I respond to a question I've received in my email. So if you want me to respond to a question that you have about life experience, put it at the email below, petermonnisdad@gmail.com, and then put in the subject title, Dear Peter, and I will respond to your question. And I do that typically every Friday, and I've kind of missed the last couple Fridays because there were other things I wanted to talk about. So I thought I would do it today. And the question that I got is really actually an important question that I want to address on here. Because one of the things that I say is that when I do my Dear Peter videos, this is not expert opinion, this is not professional advice, and that if that's something that you need, please seek that out. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about that today on here. And this is actually a similar email to a lot of emails that I get. They all kind of have the same theme. So let me read it to you, and I'm gonna keep it anonymous. I was wondering if you had any advice for a good friend who is in a depression spiral. How can I be a better friend to her? Work is rough for her. She doesn't enjoy the people she works for, but I have been trying to convince her for years to pursue something else. Lately, in the past few months, we can't even seem to get her out of the house. She lives alone. Can you even help someone who doesn't want to be helped? I feel so useless. So I think it's a really good question. So thank you for sending this to me. And I don't know that I can help you with fixing this problem because I think it's a big issue. And I get a lot of emails like this from people saying, I'm depressed or I'm sad, I don't know what to do. And the reason that this is such an important video, I want to make it very clear just right out of the gate, okay, is that there is a huge difference between the words, I feel sad and I am depressed. Those are two completely different things. And I feel like in today's time and in our society, we kind of throw those words around. I even have at times used the word depressed, and I'll say, oh, I'm depressed today or whatever. Meaning really, I'm just kind of down in the dumps, I'm sad. Now, that's completely different, okay, from clinical depression, of which over 3 million people suffer from in the United States every year. And depression can be a long-term, serious diagnosis, or it can be short-term that can be fixed with possible medication and talk therapy, or working with a psychiatrist, working with a therapist, a counselor, things like that. And really that's up to a medical professional, okay? So when you're waking up and you're sad because of an event that occurred, let's say, and you've had a couple of days where you're just down, right? I think most of us really truly know the difference between depression and sadness. And I am not, honestly, somebody that has really suffered from any severe depression in my life, but my mother did. And so I witnessed it firsthand back in the day before we called it bipolar disorder and everybody in the world was diagnosed with it. And one of the reasons why it's important for me to talk about this is that a lot of you know that I worked in the field of addiction for many years. And I would see so many people overdiagnosed with catchphrase diagnoses. And when I got into the field, 1995, the catchphrase diagnosis at that time was ADD and ADHD. And then over time, I saw it become, bipolar disorder. And then everybody in the world that came, through had bipolar disorder, and they, then the next thing I saw was Asperger's. And so there's always these kind of catchphrase diagnoses, and I'm not saying that they're not true, and I'm not saying that there aren't real people out there, okay, that have ADHD and ADD, Asperger's, and bipolar disorder, because there truly, truly are people out there that have that real diagnosis and need to be treated specifically by a psychiatrist, a medical professional who has practiced specifically for working with mental health issues, okay? That is very, very important. And back then, I only ever referred to a psychiatrist, not a family physician. That's very important. To a psychiatrist, okay, who knows what they're talking about when it comes to mental health. And one of the reasons why I don't talk about it on here, and I won't really other than give referrals like that and say, go talk to a psychiatrist, you can get a referral from your family physician, that's fine. But I really am hesitant to recommend anybody to just get on any kind of medication from your family physician, And I think what it's kind of like is like this, right? So if you had severe heart issues and you knew that you probably needed some medication, life preventative medication, you wouldn't go to your family doctor to fix your heart, right? Now, you might go to your family doctor who will refer you to a cardiologist to fix your heart, but you wouldn't necessarily trust your family doctor. And I think in today's time, and I'm not taking any business away from family doctors, family physicians, general practitioners are fantastic, right? But they don't have a specification in that area. That really needs to be a psychiatrist who is trained with working with certain medications, that knows how to combine the medications, knows the makeup of those medications. I'm not that person, I never have been, and I am not gonna give that kind of advice on here. But what I will say is there's a huge difference between depression and sadness, okay? And if you have a friend that has what you're talking about, which does seem a little bit more serious than sadness, okay? When you're talking about they don't want to go to work and they're miserable, and this has been going on for a long period of time, okay? And one of the things that, we would see back in the day is that when I, would work with clients that had, depression diagnosed by a psychiatrist, is that it was long-standing a lot of times, or even at least months going on end. And, there's different kinds of depression. There's fugue state depression, and there's, there's just different kinds of diagnoses for depression, which is why somebody needs to work with that specifically has the knowledge for that, if that makes sense, right? And, I think for a lot of us to just throw around that word takes away the story from people who are truly depressed. My mother was an alcoholic. I believe she wasn't aware of it, but a lot of times she was medicating with her depression. And she saw a therapist, are you ready for this, at periods of my life 3 times a week, okay? She saw a psychoanalyst 3 times a week when I was growing up. Now, if you don't know what that is, it's very similar to Augustine Burroughs' book, Running with Scissors. She laid on the couch. She would say to me that her doctor never spoke, and it was, so then she saw a counselor that would speak with her, and my mother was really into that, all of that, back in the day, because she really wanted to figure out what her issues were. I would see my mom, even as a child, literally not be able to get out of bed for 3 or 4 days. She just was so overcome, and I'd say, Mom, are you okay? And she'd say, I can't function. She just could not function, right? And which is why when my mom later got diagnosed with a very serious physical illness that actually led to her death, there were similar symptoms to what we saw when I was young. And so like my aunt and I, we weren't sure if it was a psych issue or if it was actually a physical illness because they couldn't diagnose her physical illness at the time. And so it looked very similar. And a lot of times depression does have attributes that look very similar to physical illness. But yet again, I'm not somebody that's going to give that kind of advice because I think that it needs to be a person that has professional expertise in that area. And anybody that would do otherwise is negligent. Let me say that as far as helping your friend, I think that we need to have more honest conversations with our friends. We need to have more, I went out to dinner last night with my friend, my best friend Tanya. If you watched my video from yesterday, I talked about how I was going and speaking at an Al-Anon group, and she went with me, and I talked a lot about it on my vlog last night. But afterwards, we went to the Cheesecake Factory and we were sitting there eating. And I said, Tanya, our relationship has changed a lot in the years. Like, we now speak really truth to each other. Like, we say really, I say like, like I said to her last night, like I think for a long period of time, we took each other kind of for granted and never let the other person know how important they were, And she goes, oh, I totally agree. But we're really transparent with each other today. And we are, right? And so, we talk about everything, and that's been the case for the last 10 years probably of our lives. And, I said, I feel like it's really a gift that we have that relationship, because I think it's hard, even with your closest friends sometimes, to say, I'm worried about you. You're miserable in your job. You don't like the people that you work for. I can't even get you out of your house. I don't know what to do. I'm scared for you, Sure, we can, do wellness checks on people. And I think that, like, it's interesting because I get questions a lot from people, and they'll say, can you do a wellness check on somebody, which is like where, like the police come and they do like a wellness check with like a social worker, right? There's really, it doesn't accomplish a whole lot unless somebody's actively suicidal typically. And that's a sad state of our society, but it's just the case. It's just the truth. And then a lot of people will say, well, what if I, get them, ordered into it like a psych program to get evaluated? Typically how that works, just so in case you don't know and you've ever felt like you needed to go down that road, it's very difficult, okay? You have to have a doctor that is working with a judge that will actually make the order to order the person for a 72-hour, I think it's a 72-hour hold in the state of Indiana. It used to be 48, but I think it's 72 hours now. Hold in a psych facility where they are diagnosed. But most psych facilities, you have to sign yourself in. So at the end of 72 hours, if you don't want to be there anymore and you're not showing any signs of self-harm, you can check yourself out, right? And then what you've done is you've closed yourself off from everybody else. If you're the person that did that, so if you, let's say you're trying to do that for your family member, you've closed that door to that person that you want to help. And I think that's why a lot of times people are like, I don't really know where to go, because if I piss them off, I'm the last person here to help them, right? Scary. It's really scary. And it's not that people that have depression don't want help. It's not that they don't want to get better. It's that they don't know how to, and they don't believe that it's possible a lot of times. And that was really the case with my mother, you know? And she was going to a counselor for a long time. And she would say, my mom would say, I'm just so depressed. I'm just so depressed. I cannot feel, I feel like I have a heavy blanket over me. And I felt this way, before so I have epilepsy, and I haven't talked about that on here recently, but I have days where the epilepsy just kind of takes me over. And it hasn't actually happened in like 6 months, but I just don't want to go anywhere. I feel like there's this heavy blanket over me. My mom would say that with depression. She would say, I feel like there's this heavy blanket over me that I can't, it's like a cloud that I can't get rid of. I can't get, it's like anywhere I walk, the cloud follows me. And so she was working with this counselor, and she told me later, once she got sober, the counselor would say to her, or she would say to the counselor every week, I'm just so depressed. I'm so depressed, And she had events in her life that caused her depression. Her divorce, which I don't know that she ever got over. Being a single mother was hard for her. She didn't have a lot of friends, and she was drinking to mute all of this kind of stuff. Not to mention a lot of severe stuff that had probably happened, when she was growing up and stuff like that, and the conditions of her childhood. She was very, very poor growing up, and, she and my aunt had a very difficult life. And so, if you want to hear more about this, I've shared on my vlog extensively about how I found out after my mom's death that my grandma was actually in prison for quite some time for embezzlement. And is that how you say it, embezzlement? She embezzled money. But anyway, and I don't say that jokingly, I think it's interesting that I didn't find that out later. So my mom had all these secrets that she kept, and I think a lot of that led to her depression, right? And so it wasn't that she didn't want to get better, it's that she didn't know how, and the only way that she knew how was to medicate it, I think, by drinking. And her counselor said to her one day, listen, I can't even begin to work on what's going on underneath here until you stop drinking. And the reason, and my mom never understood that until she got sober, but alcoholism, and I know a lot of people don't want to believe that it's a disease, okay? And when you can't compare it to other diseases. So let me make this very, very clear to you, okay? Every disease typically has 5 signs and symptoms that identify it as a disease by the American Medical Association, okay? So you cannot line up diabetes with addiction and say they are identical. You just can't, okay? But they have the same signs and symptoms which are identifiable, okay? And what that means is that they are things like they're progressive, they are terminal, okay? If you don't stop it, things like that. They have identifiable signs and symptoms that if you use, there's like 5 traits for every disease. Addiction has those 5 traits, which is why today it is identified is identified as a disease by the American Medical Association. But honestly, I don't really care if anybody believes it or not, okay? Ask yourself this. If you have an addict or an alcoholic in your life, is their drinking or drugging messing up their life? That's all you need to know. It doesn't matter if it's a disease or not, right? But when it is a disease, what you have to realize is it's primary, and you have to always deal with the primary disease that is going on, right? So to help somebody that has depression that is drinking or using a drug, they have to be clean and sober, or you cannot help them, period, right? So when you want to ask your help, you want to help somebody, a friend or a family member, first of all, what you got to do is, if they're using actively, get them help for the use, okay? Be honest with them about your fear for them. Now, if there is no drinking or drugging going on, and they just are going in a depression a spiral, like this person said, then I think that you got to be honest with them and say, I love you, I am terrified for you. I don't know what to do. I've tried so hard to keep you entertained, to get you out of your house. I don't know what to do anymore. Why don't you let me sit down with you, and we'll schedule an appointment for you to go talk to somebody? No, I don't want to do that. I don't need that. I'm scared of that. You don't know I don't have the money for it. Well, I'll help you pay for the first session. I'll even go with you the first session. If you want me to sit in the appointment, I can sit in the appointment with you. They'll be okay with that. No. And then you let it go for a day or two, and then you bring it back up again 2 days later. Things aren't getting any better. And then you say, listen, if over the course of 4 or 5 days you're not feeling any better, will you at least schedule the appointment if you don't want to end up going? And you have to kind of slowly get them to feel comfortable with that idea. But you cannot cure somebody's depression. And there's some coming to terms with that all of us have to face. You can only get them to the point where they get the help that they need. And it's, very like the saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. But you can help them get the help they need. You can find numbers and resources now, okay? And I always recommend this, and I'm not sponsored by them. It's just, website I've used for years and years and years, and I don't know if it's outside the United States, but in the United States, I always recommend psychologytoday.com. I will link it below. You can go in there and you can put your zip code, city, whatever. It will list in there treatment programs, which are JCO approved, which is important. You will have therapists in there, life coaches, counselors, psychiatrists, everything. And you can put in there what you're looking for: depression, sexuality issues, suicidal ideation, mutilation. You can put in whatever you are feeling in there, okay? Anything issue you're having, and it'll bring up specialists in that area. So I will link that below as a resource for anybody out there that's looking for one. Have a name ready in case your friend says, today I need to go do something. You can call somebody and get in there right away. If your friend asks, act on it right then. And if your friend displays any behavior that is life-threatening or scary to you, do not hesitate to call 911. And I never hesitate to call 911 for anybody in my life if they make statements. Because I don't ever want somebody's cry for help resting on my shoulders, if that makes sense. And we never know at that moment if it's really true or if it's not. And I learned a long time ago, it's not my place to question whether it's true or not. It's my place as a friend or as a loved one just to act on it and be there if they really do need help. I love you guys. I hope that was helpful, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.